Hey everybody, it's Sergio with the Rideshare guy. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Wheel. Well, today I have a very special guest. I usually don't say that to all the guests, but Jeff from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina is special for the fact that he is doing this interview for the second time. We did one about a year ago, very popular video. And what better way to reintroduce him to our new subscribers? But he also has written a book about his 10,000 trips with Uber, which we will talk about at the end of the episode. So, with all that said, Jeff, how are you? Welcome.
I'm doing great. It's nice to talk to you again, and I was looking forward to it all day long.
Oh, God, not too many people do when they're talking to me, but you know, we'll go with the flow. So, we did your original behind the wheel episode about a year ago, maybe less, I'm not sure, but it was very popular. And your unique way of looking at the industry, the space itself, created some waves, which we expected to do, but also your driving style. So tell me what has changed over the year. Are you still driving? Are you still doing the same things as you were doing before when you're driving? Give us a little bit about that.
Well, it's been a great year, and I've enjoyed it even more than any other year. Yeah, I'm basically doing the same thing I've been doing the last 3 years. I semi-retired 2.5 years ago, and I guess the headline of my uh, interview last time was he accepts 99% of his rides. Why, or something like that. And
Yeah.
this year I've given about 2,500 rides part time, 2 or 3 days on the weekend, and I've worked almost 100 days, which is my goal was 105, which I'll come close to at the end of this month. And out of the 2,500, there was one ride I did not accept. So I think that comes to 99.996 or something like that.
So you're still you doing what you did when I first spoke to you a year ago, and you're still accepting pretty much every trip that comes your way. You're out there about 20 hours a week, I would say, or maybe a little bit more, couple days, full shifts. I mean, I wouldn't do justice if I didn't ask you, how are your earnings? I mean, are they the same as last year? Are they less? Are they more? What have you seen over the last year since we spoke the first time?
Well, the difference between last year and this year, obviously the promotions have been less, which I expected. It's a little bit more um, uh, more cut than I expected, but I knew it would be less. Also, the mileage subsidy that I made $1,100 last year on that, and of course that's not there. So, but considering I'm down. Well over, I think it's about $3,400 in promotions and that subsidy. Probably going to finish about 4% less than last year, which the promotions itself is actually more than that.
Yeah.
So I've been pretty happy with how things have gone out on the road, and I've adjusted a few things, but that's more of as far as where I drive, since I drive in Charleston and also Myrtle Beach, and it's really been a terrific year driving, and as I say many times. I don't think a driver should be allowed to have as much fun as I do. And I never, it seems like every year seems to get better. And I know that's not the experience that a lot of people have had, which I can understand, but I look to make it fun, and my passengers have gotten into that. Last time, I'll just mention that it was the third week, I think, of January, and I had 21 foreign bills in my car. currency from given to me from passengers. And I did say passengers just for you because I
Yeah.
usually refer to them as riders. I know you got that. But currently I have 41. So I've gone from 21 to 41. Only one of them is not from a passenger, and that's from family. So, but it's been an incredible. It really has been an incredible year, and I will say, and just so I don't forget, on behalf of all the drivers, you have had a fabulous year, and you and Chris on Show Me the Money Club have been just terrific, and it's greatly appreciated the information and education that you've been able to give out. And I just wanted to thank you for that. And of course, this is Harry's show, company overall. So he also deserves some of the credit. But I wanted to throw that in because you've been a big part of the year. I think in any driver who's been paying attention, you have made a difference in drivers' lives.
Well, I hope so, and we're going to continue keep plugging at it. But when let's go back to your earnings comment for a couple of minutes. Look, your circumstances are different, right? You're retired or semi-retired, but you enjoy doing rideshare, which is there's nothing wrong with that. And 6.5 million globally drivers are enjoying that as well. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. However, everybody's circumstances are different, and all markets are different, right? I mean, we can't compare, one driver to another, literally, even within the same city, because their strategy is different and all that stuff. But pushing back a little bit on that when we're in an inflationary period in this country, where everything we're buying, from insurance for our cars to gas to maintenance to parts, which are up quite a bit, as obviously, because I'm sure you change your oil and you change your tires. You've seen what the prices have happened to those items, which are the tools of our trade. I mean, without a car, there's no rideshare. How do you combat let's say your earnings specifically being down about 4%, and which is due to, correctly stated, for incentive cuts, which is, we know that throughout the nation, that's what's happening, because there are so many drivers that you just don't have to put those incentives out. They don't need to as a company. But with inflation going up and everything costing more and drivers making even 4% less, does that sound right to you, or is that something that negligible to you?
Well, the thing is that talking about recently you had Todd on, and he laid it out perfectly where he said, look, I do what I want to do, and if I wanted to make 4% more, I could do that by doing some different things.
Yeah.
I could drive sometimes at night where there are surges, or I could drive a few days more. I decided that I would drive. I drove 118 12-hour days last year, and my goal from the beginning was 105 days this year. And part of that was because of publishing a book and having time to promote it at the end of the year. And I could make more if I want to, but I choose not to.
Okay.
And it's part of my business, and I think a great way of putting it was how Todd put it at the end of the interview. He said, use the tools that you have to build a business the way you want to build it, and not how you think that Uber or Lyft should build it. And I just drive now with Uber. If I want, I could add Lyft, and instead of doing 12 hours a day, I could do an extra hour on Lyft.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't answer the question, but I'm going to let you slide on that one. Here's because, look, a lot of drivers are complaining that their earnings are down, even 4% in your case, but it probably more in some other cases, depending on where you drive, because you're in a tourist town with a lot of tips, which I know you get a lot of tips. But when inflation is going up 5, 6, 7%, and your earnings are going down by 4, 5, 10%, not everybody has a chance to do what you two are doing, right? And I think it's a knock on these companies to start with that. earnings should be, catching up, or if not beating inflation to a point. But then as independent contractors, that's what we're called, but we don't have a choice. I mean, we don't name the price of the job, so it's not in our control, and then that comes into our circle of control. But I think rideshare has been pretty rough, to be honest with you, for many drivers around the nation, due to the fact that inflation is eating into their earnings on one end, and they are making less money due to incentive cuts. But that's a reality. Hopefully that will change soon. But before we go into more detail, the other day you sent me an email, and there were some I raised eyebrows. I was like, I wonder if we could ask him about these. So I picked 5 out of those questions or comments that you sent me. And so I want you to give me a 1-minute answer on each one of these, because I want to save time to talk about your published book, which is sitting pretty behind you right there. And so first one is going to be just 1 minute. I'm going to watch the clock and then, let you know when your time is up. Like we're doing the presidential debate, you know what I mean? So first one that I came up with is, we are being controlled. Even if we don't have a boss, physical, actual boss that's looking over our shoulder, there's a thing called this wonderful algorithm that is controlling pretty much everything we do when we're doing a 10, 12-hour shift. What do you say about that? Are we being controlled or not?
I don't think so. I decided, like I said at the beginning of the year, how many days I was going to work. I know that I prefer working 12-hour days. I just got a Quest. I've only had one in the last 13 weeks. And so I got one this weekend, but it doesn't fit into what I want to do.
Yep.
So I'm just going to take the smallest amount. I'll collect the money. If I want, I could change my schedule, but I'd rather do what I want.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that people realize you do have control over your time. You may not control every single ride, but you also have choices of whether you accept rides or not.
Yep. Okay. So
That's
that's
fine.
fair. That's fair. No, I think that's fair, and you hit it right on the minute. So second one is going to be, there is a lot of talk in the community that we're not making any money, we're making less money, they're messing around with our wages. There's things called algorithmic wage discrimination, which one driver will get one price, another driver will get one price for the exact same trip, right? Which we've done on Show Me the Money many times, right? So, kind of connecting to that, a lot of drivers say that Uber and Lyft owe them a living wage. What do you say about that?
I don't agree that they do owe us a living wage. They are a company. They have their own business, and we have independent businesses. And I go back once again. I'll mention Todd. He said, "Look, my job is to get people from one place to another, and Uber and Lyft, they do all the rest." And listen, I do have control over what I do. And if I want to make more, I can. And so I don't feel controlled at all. I'm
Okay.
fine with, look, they've given me rides, and for the most part, it's very rare for me to come home and say, well, you know what? I just didn't get many good rides.
Yeah.
Very rare. It may have happened once or twice all year long, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the question was like about living wage, right? Living wage meaning in your city it may be $20 an hour. In LA, it's got to be 30 an hour, because our living expenses are out of control. So you're saying the Uber and Lyft don't owe the drivers anything as far as quote unquote living wage is concerned?
No, I don't think so, because we have control over what we want to make.
Okay.
Now, let's face it, 80% of the drivers are part-time.
Yeah.
Now, I'm part-time. Actually, it'll be 24 hours for 52 weeks or something like that, 104 days. But I'm part-time. If I want to work another day, I can work. I could have been working today. I
Yeah.
chose not to.
Yeah. Okay. So one other question that came up to my mind is that again, the community that we're building successfully, obviously, and I have some gripes about all these issues, by the way. So I'm not that I'm agreeing with everything you're saying, but as an individual, you make your own choices. I mean, you drive, you drive. You don't want to drive, you don't need to drive. However, there are a lot of people who are in my camp when it comes to this issue, which is total transparency, right? I think transparency is lacking as far as Uber and Lyft are concerned. Okay, meaning specifically take rates, right? Take rates meaning what the passenger pays versus what you receive. Now, there's many ways you can skin that cat. Math is math. Math is not going to lie. If a passenger paid $100 and you made $50, Uber took $50, which is 50%, which that take rate has gone up immensely, actually, in the last 2-3 years, according to Uber, not me, right? And a lot of people say they should be more transparent. They should tell us what the passenger is paying, specifically on Lyft's case, that they just don't, right? So what do you say about transparency in all areas, basically, not just take rate, but do you think these companies are transparent enough?
Well, I don't think I certainly don't think there should be full transparency. I mean, look, we're interested, and I have my own business with independent contractor drivers, and I've been an independent contractor for a very long time. Sure, I'd love to know. There are things that, they come up with something. I'm like, gee, why are they doing that? What's the thinking behind that? And sure, I'd love to know, but you know what? Whether do I really should I know everything that they do and why they do it? No, I don't think so. It's their business.
Yeah,
Now, I'd like to know a little bit more, and I think they lose out. Like, how do they come up with the quests?
yeah,
How do they give these bonuses and promotions? What is the philosophy behind it? I'd love to know. And I think it's a disadvantage to them. I think they lose out by not sharing something like that, because a lot of times people are like, people get insulted if they don't get a quest. I don't feel that way, but you still like to know, well, what do you do to get a quest? How does it work?
yeah, yeah.
So I would say not full transparency. Would it help in some situation? Yeah, we'd love to know. Now, not everyone would love to know, but I know you and I would. Definitely.
Well, I got to know to tell you. Don't show me the money. So that's the only way. But okay, so the next one that I'm going to tackle is another hot topic in the community these days. We all talk about it. I mean, we should talk about it on Show Me the Money quite often. It's called something called oversaturation, right? Meaning, and the company CEO said that during their own conference call. So I'm just taking his advice or words about this, which was, it's the first time, he said, in our history that supply, when they say supply means drivers, supply is outstripping demand. So that kind of goes with what the driver community is saying, that there are way too many drivers out there, right? Do you think the markets are oversaturated in where you drive? I know you drive in 2 different cities. Do you see a difference from last year when I first interviewed you to this year, that there are more drivers or there are less drivers? Do you feel oversaturation?
I have not personally seen a difference. And the way I look at it is 5.5 years ago, people were saying there's too many drivers. They're always saying it. It's almost like the kids saying, are we there yet? Constantly. And what do you mean there's too many drivers? They have to, I've been in distribution, and they have to cover an area, whatever size it is, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They don't know when people are working. There's no employees, there's no schedule, there's no manager in charge of an area. And somehow somehow it has to work. So no, I don't think there's too many drivers. And this year in particular, I mean, I know in Charleston where they have the upfront pricing, acceptance rates have got to be the lowest they've ever had.
Yeah.
And I fully support drivers choosing to do that. However, the reality is if there's 3 drivers and their acceptance rate is 33%, how many drivers are really there?
Yeah. Yeah. And well, and I know you think about it that the algorithm ultimately takes care of you, right?
I do.
Because you said this to me publicly and privately that because you have 100% close to 100, as close as possible to 100% acceptance rate, you get better rides. That's what your opinion is.
It could be. Look, I can't explain it, but I know I get good rides now. Now, there are other people who get good rides too,
Yeah,
but I just feel that if people were getting as good rides as I get, and
yeah,
I'm an ex-driver, then would it be such a big problem? Would they be complaining there's too many drivers? Well, I am concerned about what drivers are out and what drivers are accepting rides where I am.
yeah,
I don't like right now. Are there too many drivers out? I don't know, but does it matter to me?
yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah. You do your thing. I mean, everybody does their own thing, and then
exactly.
whatever works for you is not going to work for anybody else. But then a lot of drivers think that it's because of Jeff, because he accepts all the trash orders,
Right.
and some good orders, right? That's why Uber is lowering their rates. Do you think that's valid? That there are drivers that take all the trash orders, and then Uber then feels obligated to lower everybody else's earnings. Is that valid for you?
No, that's not that's not
Well,
valid for me. No,
well,
I don't believe that at all. Look, I go out. I think each person goes out to drive for themselves, their family, whatever their situation is. And look, I've been a big supporter of drivers for decades, literally decades. And whatever I can do, I try to do, to help drivers, whether it's information or referring to the rideshare guy and show me the money show. I do that on a regular basis, whatever I can do. But, to think that when I go out, my priority is myself and my family. My second priority, quite frankly, is the passengers,
yeah,
the riders.
yeah,
I go out, they need a ride. I'm going to give them a ride. And I'm not sure there aren't many days that I don't go out and have to explain to someone, hey, listen, I'm sorry I had trouble getting a ride. The reason you were turned down was, we're independent contractors. Don't take it personally. But, the driver decided for whatever reason that they have not to take the ride.
yeah,
And sometimes I do it 2 or 3 rides in a row, depending on the day. But
yeah,
I support the drivers and I defend the drivers in their decision to do it. And if that's good for them, great. It's not what I want to do, but that's okay.
yeah.
I pick up the driver,
I
rider.
I agree with you, but we're going to touch on this for about 30 seconds. The next question, and then we'll go into your wonderful book that you wrote. Actually, we talk about it on Show Me the Money, and then I think it's amazing that you were able to put this together and put your hours and 10,000 trips in it. And I've read it; it's a wonderful book. But let's get into. I always now, I made a habit of asking this question to all my interviews on Behind the Wheel. All right. I usually tell them 3 things you like about rideshare, 3 things you dislike about rideshare. But in this case, because I want to save more time for your book, give me 2 things you like about rideshare and give me 2 things you dislike about rideshare.
Well, the opportunity of rideshare is terrific.
Okay.
It's just a great opportunity, and I've had many part-time jobs, but it's just a terrific opportunity, and I'm very grateful to that my wife decided to sign up, and I got convinced to give it a shot. The second thing, um, I would say the passengers. My riders have been. I never expected what I've experienced from so many people, the generosity, the amount of laughter, these talking to successful people, interesting. It's been an incredible experience, and that's why I dedicated the book to my riders.
Okay. And 2 things do you dislike? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we talk about this with you quite often because
Yes.
we like writing, right? So I know one of your dislikes is probably going to be the way Uber and Lyft communicate with their drivers.
Yeah, the communication. Look, and I've told you several times. I told you recently. I said, look, before they put anything out to drivers, they should send it to you or me, or I would add Todd into that. I mean, there are certain people that will speak clearly and communicate, and so people can understand it. So they're not trying to figure out, well, what do they mean by that? So that is definitely one. And you know what? The some of it is just there's some common sense things that that they should do that are obvious. You
Yeah.
know, the deactivations, deactivations. That
Firing.
what was that?
I call it firing.
Firing. Well,
Yeah.
no, firing is for employees.
Okay.
They're not fired. They're terminated.
Okay.
They're
Terminated.
separated from the platform.
Okay.
But there are things like what Gabe was on the show with what
Yeah.
happened to him. Someone has to be able to come up with a solution that Gabe should be able to continue to work with a special number or something. They're a computer, they're communications computer. They've got to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that's something that is really lacking the common sense connection with who the drivers are,
Yeah.
and getting through them a message. So those would be the two. And I left out Uber support, but that's a whole nother. I know I did a big article on
That's a
that.
whole nother behind the wheel.
That is. But
So
that goes along with the other two.
communication, right? Exactly. Yeah,
It
they're
really
horrible
does.
communicators as far as I'm concerned. So okay, let's get to the big deal now, right? So I mean, you're a big deal. You're in newspapers, you're in TV on TV. I thought I was the only one, but no, no, no. You're catching up pretty quick. So we have like 5 minutes. Let's talk about your book. What made you write your book? And you can show us one if you have one nearby, but it's sitting over your shoulder all over the place.
Yeah,
There's
they're
the
they're all over the place, but
sunny side. That's why he's our sunshine.
driving on the sunny side with 10,000 strangers, and basically the passengers have been absolutely terrific from the very beginning. It surprised me. I said after my favorite rider, who is in the book, after I drove him, the mayor from Pennsylvania, I said to my wife, he's the kind of guy I'd like to invite over for dinner. Of course, she wasn't really big on that idea, but there have been others. I mean, there have been people, Jen Kelly, who I met at the end of July. She missed out on the book, but if you look over my shoulder here
Yeah,
and you
we see
look up
it.
on the shelf, you should
We
be able
see
to
it.
see Lily, the mannequin head up there. She gave me a mannequin head because she's a salon owner. And I said, okay, thanks. And I put it in my car, not having any idea what would happen with it. And people enjoyed it. People were laughing, talking to her, sober people, because I drive during the day.
Yeah.
So what I do is I give a lot to riders, and they've given it back to me. And sometimes it's from out of the blue, and I'm like, okay, great. And then I try to figure out, well, what can I do with this? It's really been terrific. I have looking forward to this year. I'm going to continue to drive about 100 some days. I'm going to do another 2,500 rides this coming year. But I've started giving presentations, promoting my book. I was on 3 straight TV interviews in Myrtle Beach, one with a drone over my house, which was ridiculous.
Hey, price of
I mean, I
fame.
couldn't believe it.
Price of fame. That's the price of fame you have to pay. That's what it is.
It is. Yeah. And so I've started giving some Rotary organizations and service organizations I'm going to speak to and do some events. I'm giving a presentation on celebrating strangers, and that comes directly from one of my passengers who wrote a blog post about her mom. She lost her to cancer when she was 10, and she's part of her foundation in Ohio. And I managed to get her a copy of the book, and I think she's really touched by the attention she's gotten. And basically, she says in the column, the blog that she wrote, she says, it's very important. You never know how much you can do for people, for strangers, and how much difference you can make. And I can't compete with what she's done as in the cancer area. She's helped people with cancer. But I help people with every day, and I want them to experience the best ride they've ever had. I want them to get out of the car with something different. If they're laughing, even better. I want them to see maybe a different side of of drivers that they've had in the past, and I want them to have fun. I
Yeah.
learned that from my second favorite rider. Have more fun. And I was going to have Lily, my mannequin head, right behind me,
Yes,
hooked up
yes.
to the chair, but she kept sliding down, and I was just going
know.
to go like this and show it to her just to see if you could do the interview without grinning ear
No,
to ear.
no. It was a good idea not to do it. But look, I read the book. Obviously, it's a great read. Not only it's a great read, it's an easy read. Honestly, unlike regular books, there is no start and an end, right? You can literally start in this book on the last page and go backwards. You can start in the middle, go either way you want, or you can start like a regular read, go from the front to the back. It's all short stories, amazing, funny stories, touchy stories, and I think it's a great book. It's, by the way, it is for sale on all major outlets, online as well. So if you guys are interested, please check it out. What was the title of your book again? Please mention it one more time.
It's Driving on the Sunny Side with 10,000 Strangers. And I will tell you that one of my design inspirations to design the front cover of the book was Harry Campbell's Rideshare Guide, which is up there on the shelf there. And because it was easy to read, it had yellow on the front. I wanted it to be bright and colorful, especially since my business name is the Sunshine Man. It had to be that. And my publisher, Palmetto Publishing in North Charleston, did a fabulous job
Yeah.
in designing it. And I'm really excited, and people have enjoyed it. It is easy to read. It is fun to read. And my only regret, I should tell you, in finishing, is that I wish I could give the 70 or 80 people that I wrote real stories on in a book. I wish I could have given all of them a book so they could enjoy and see themselves in the book.
Yeah, I mean, again, I read it. It's a great read, and we have 1 minute left, and I'm watching the clock because we don't like too long-winded conversations. Um, Give us your 1 minute of advice from our sunshine man, Jeff. Um, it could be life advice, it could be driving advice, it could be any kind of advice. Give us a minute of advice, please.
Well, listen, the thing is that, look, you decide how you want to run your business. You are an independent contractor. You make decisions. We're going into a new year. What's your year going to be like? How is your business going to be better than last year? What are you going to do differently? What can you add to your ride, and make it a better experience for your riders and
Right.
passengers? But it's up to you, and that's the fun thing. I've got a great idea that I'm adding on in addition to everything else, and I'm looking forward to a new year and when it gets busy. But you decide. It's not up to Uber or Lyft. That's their business. Your business is up to you, and be a sponge and get as much information from any sources that you can, especially the rideshare guy and the videos and all that. But it makes a big difference to get more information and understand you're not alone. It's your
Yeah.
business, but we are our community.
Yeah. Well, here's Jeff, second time around, as sunshine as ever, from Myrtle Beach. And I want to thank you for doing this. Much appreciated. And hopefully to a great year. Stay healthy, stay safe. And I'm sure we will do this again, maybe, next year, towards the end of next year.
It'll be a yearly thing. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for watching this episode of Behind the Wheel on the Rideshare Guy. We've been doing these interviews for the past 6 months with very successful drivers from different cities around the nation. Click here for another episode. Make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications for other episodes of Behind the Wheel as well as amazing content on our channel.